My name is Chang Chiu and I'm going to introduce what is Sukuk and some interesting fact about Sukuk. Sukuk is known as Islamic debt market instruments. It is an asset-based security which represents ownership of a tangible asset. Sukuk is compliance with Islamic religious law known as Sharia law, endorsed by Sharia Advisory Council. All harmful activities like dealing with alcohol, drugs, gambling, or anything else that Sharia considered unlawful must be prohibited. In this law, they also prohibit riba, known as charging and receiving any additions interest. So we can conclude that all activities involved in sukuk must be in a halal way. How sukuk works is, when the investor invests in sukuk, they will receive a certificate from the issuers to evidence ownership, and they are entitled to receive periodical profit payment on the principal amount invested. Upon maturity, the sukuk holder will get back to the principal amount of the investor, plus a margin of the profit based on the pre-agreed ratio. The periodic profit payment can be in the form of profit sharing or rental from the asset. Do you know that according to the Thomson-Reuters Islamic Finance Development Indicator, Malaysia is known as the most developed Islamic finance market in the world from year 2013 to 2017. The ration of this is Malaysian sukuk are supported by the world-class Islamic finance infrastructure. This infrastructure provides a very strong and solid Islamic finance regulation and guideline to the markets. Besides, Malaysia's comprehensive capital market regulations and policy have safeguarded the investor interest and installed markets' confidence in sukuk. Another fact is, Malaysia has issued the first corporate sukuks by Shell that worth 125 million US dollar in year 1990. And Group Kruton Berhad, a Malaysian corporate, also issued the first global corporate sukuk to the world.
Hello, my name is Haniuzah Omar and I'll be discussing with you what are the current issues that relates with sukuk in Malaysia. Malaysia sought to be an Islamic financial hub that comply with the religious principles. In line with this, the Malaysian government has started opening its market to international players. Who are these international players? They include the Al-Rajhi Banking and Investment Corporation, Kuwait Finance House, the RUSD bank-led consortium such as Qatar Islamic Bank and Global Investment House. Sukuk development in Malaysia is one of the Islamic capital finance success story. It has become a very important Sharia-compliant instrument which provides the required capital for the public as well as the corporate sector. However, the practice of sukuk in Malaysia has not been completely free from the surrounding disputes. What are they? Whether they are Sharia issues as well as standard being used actually, among other things. The Islamic product markets are not yet coordinated by a single body, and the products are not standardized. There has been attempts and calls for a common regulatory framework, but that is still a work in progress. The state of affairs is not conducive for investors' confidence. This issue needs to be addressed quickly, or else the domain privilege enjoyed by each market regulator, for example Malaysia, might result in less cooperation in later development should the others prefer the status quo. Is there a central consultative body? At the moment, no. There are about 300 Sharia experts dominating the marketplace, and the issue, hence the issue of possible differences of opinions and standards being used. Next, let's examine what are the challenges of sukuk for sukuk to grow in Malaysia. Some overseas Islamic banks are now withdrawing from Malaysia. Why? Because they face limited growth prospects due to intense competition from local rivals. The Bahrain's bank Akhai BSC is reported on planning to exit Malaysian Islamic current scenario after operating in the world's biggest Islamic bond market. National Bank of Abu Dhabi Malaysia Berhad closed its operation in Southeast Asia last year. Kuwait Finance House and Saudi Arabia's Al Rajhi Bank have also been considering pulling out of the market or else merging with the local rivals. What are other significant challenges faced by Sukuk players in the industry? One of them would be the size of the socially responsible investment in the market. Green Sukuk is much smaller than the green bond, as there are only very few issued in the market so far. Why? Because the market for such instruments is still not mature. In Malaysia, the Securities Commission of Malaysia (SC) has in 2014 launched the Sustainable and Responsible Investment (SRI) Sukuk framework to facilitate the financing of sustainable and responsible investment initiatives. The launch of the SRI Sukuk framework is in line with the initiatives set out under the Securities Commission Capital Market Master Plan in order to promote socially responsible financing and investment initiatives. Another challenge is the complexity of the Sukuk itself that may continue to discourage participation from many investors and issuers who were adversely affected before by structured products in time of global financial crisis. Malaysia has a very encouraging history of Islamic banking and has a big potential to succeed in this area. It has pioneered Islamic finance in the 1980s and with aims to have 40% of its banking assets complying with the region's ban on interest by 2020. That's up from an estimated 30% from the year of 2018. For Malaysia to grow further, government as well as private companies have been actively financing through issuance of Sukuk, especially for infrastructure projects as it relates to driving the real economy. Thank you.
Assalamualaikum and hi everybody. I'm Muhammad Kawim bin Abdul Ghani and now I will present about Sukuk in other countries. How the Sukuk affect their financial and economical environment. The reality is that Sukuk has already been used to boost the funds of several countries that are struggling financially and economically. For instance, by using domestic resources such as motorways to issue sukuks, Pakistan already collected 457 million USD. Others, Malaysian state-held companies have also earned millions of euros using sukuk, and Saudi Arabia is presently using sukuk to fund much of the buildings of one of its major airports. One of the main advantages of sukuk as a source of funds for struggling economies is there is offers significant of advantages beyond the actual initial capital gain. Other nations, such as United Kingdom, has foreseen the needs for its latest Sukuk issuance and has well been enhancing its connections with Muslims, nations and major Islamic banking centers. Currently, nations such as Hong Kong and Ireland have implemented tax changes to enable Sukuk's assistance, handling these economic tools in a manner comparable to standard securities. Most importantly, tax contacts have risen dramatically over the past century between Islamic finance hotspots such as North Africa, Southeast Asia, and also Western nations. Last but not least, Sukuk has been an appealing choice for investors around the globe, and their development has quite spectacular, particularly over the past century. In reality, do you remember during the 2009 worldwide economic woes, the Sukuk market was not struck as negatively as other conventional financial medium and instruments.
Assalamualaikum, my name is Fatin. I will discuss more on the perspective towards Sukuk issuance. First of all, initially the Sukuk was in the response of the demands of the issuers and investors in the Muslim countries, as it is an alternative mode for the financing and the investment needs that complies with the Sharia requirement. Meanwhile, during the financial crisis 2008, there was an argument towards Sukuk. The stock market was found negatively significance towards Sukuk, and after that it turns out to be positively significant on the post-crisis period. Thus, a Sukuk market has been driven by the intensified interest among the sovereign and the corporate investor. For conventional investors, Sukuk are probably not an asset class on their own, and Sukuk can be substituted to the conventional bond. Meanwhile, for the Muslim investor, mostly hold Sukuk to maturity, and conventional investor will actively trade Sukuk in response to development in the broader bond market. As a conclusion here, I could say that the increase of the Sukuk popularity and the Islamic financial asset preference to investor in general is the increase of the awareness of the consumer about their peculiarities compared to the conventional one. That's all from me. Thank you.